Welcome back to our Market Trader 101 series. This is a follow-up video to identifying supply and demand on a trading chart. And this particular item we're looking at here is the stock of Apple, and it's a daily chart. Um, Time frame here is starting on February 23rd, and this is what I had posted in the previous video. So just to recap, we were expecting that price was probably going to retrace into what we call a demand zone here that I'm marking in purple, and that as price would move into this zone, we were expecting a price reaction of some kind, hopefully bullish, because we had the expectation that there were a lot of unfilled buy orders still sitting in that zone. So in the next couple of charts, I will show you what happened to price as it moved into that range. We're looking at a chart here of 1 day later. So this is actually February 24th now. And you can see that we actually had a very large candle form that day with a reaction of price testing the zone and then bouncing strongly away from it. So this is a really good example of how you can anticipate turning points on a chart. Price opened up lower in the morning. If you were watching this, or if you could pull up an intraday chart, say like an hourly chart, you would have seen that price started to fall into this demand zone, and it tested this price here. Actually, went in quite deeply, so at least 50% of that zone. But then suddenly, by the end of the day, the market had reversed. The overall market reversed, and Apple along with it staged a rally, and price moves strongly back away from it. You can see we're looking at from 94.15 closing up into like the 96.10 range. So it was a good $2 move in the price. So had you taken a long buy order sometime in the morning, or anticipated price moving into this zone, and just put a limit order in to buy here, you by the end of the day would have had the opportunity to sell for a profit. Looks like close to $2. So that's a substantial move in the price. In the next screen, we're going to take a look at how price is actually reacting today in the current time. So in our current time here, this is actually now February 25th, so it's the day of this video being recorded. You can see that Apple is kind of being quiet today, and I think overall the market is relatively quiet. It's trading up at around 95.79, but you can see it's holding the gains from the previous day. So this test would have been considered successful. If you were still in this trade, what you could do is you could definitely move your stop up to break even at this point here, because if price were to fall, and again, it's possible that it can fall backwards, the stop would take you out and you'd have a zero loss. Or you can continue to hold the trade into where you think the price is going to turn next. So the interesting thing is, where do we think price can go? Well, we do need to look at this large candle here. Because that was a point of large selling previously, and this is a few days ago, going back about a week. So I fully expect that price over the next few days could um, trace and track its way up, heading towards this zone here, and that would be my first probability that it's going to hit some more selling and then probably can turn at this point. So right now we're actually looking like we're in a range somewhere between probably 94 and $99, bouncing in that range. And until something breaks and out of this range, we won't see a definite trend. But we're probably going to get a few more tests as we move along, because more than likely there's still sellers up here. Okay, and potentially there's buyers down here, but it is getting weaker. This was a fairly large test into this zone, so we wouldn't expect a lot of buyers to be left. But interestingly enough, if you look at the points here too, Apple has been sort of making higher highs. So my expectation is that if it's going to respect demand, and keep moving away from these zones, these larger daily demand zones, that we will eventually get higher prices. And as we test these selling zones a few times, eventually they'll start to weaken and then break. But for right now, it looks like it's pretty quiet. Volatility in Apple The implied volatility is around 27%, so it's actually come down quite a bit, and that means it's fairly quiet, so we don't expect too much action right now in the stock. And our last video in this recap, this follow-up video, is just to take a look at the overall broad market. So what I've done here is brought up a chart of the S&P 500. This is the cash index. So in TradingView, that is SPX 500. I'm just looking at it on the daily time frame, which is the large one. And there's a couple of areas I just want to mark and point out to you and look at some interpretation here. So first one was this area right down here, and it's actually already been tested, but this is a demand zone or demand area, and you have to kind of watch these carefully, but you see that there was a test really just the other day where it just touched into this zone and then bounced strongly away. So there was a lot of people, a lot of buyers in this overall index, this overall market looking to capture that retest at around 1892. So that's a significant demand point, and if you'd also notice, it really didn't go in very far. It just touched the upper range. So that's still probably fresh if we do get another test. The other thing is we're getting, although it's not clear up here, we're getting a lot of wicks in this range right here, where I'm just going to change my pen here, um, where price is testing quite a bit, and it's the expectation is that the more price is testing this upward range here, it's reducing the amount of sellers, and at some point we're probably going to see this thing break. And where will it go to? Well, on the daily, we are looking for the large range candles that were moving down previously, and we're looking to basically retest into those zones where there was a little bit of a pause. So right up here, and then a little bit higher up there would be my first targets. So if you do look though, 1934 to 2016, 2020, kind of in that range, that's a pretty good range move. So we could be looking at a sort of a breakout to the upside here on the S&P 500, and that's a bullish indicator for the overall market until we hit supply at the top.